You have forgotten how to live. You want some proof? Okay, tell me which of these statements resonate with you. You always want to keep the peace, even if it's at the cost of your voice. You see disagreements as conflicts and avoid them by any means. You constantly put the needs of others over your own. You constantly seek to be light rather than to be real. If you agreed with any of those statements, and more importantly, if you would like to change that behavior, then you, my friend, are here for a reason. Hi, my name is Trevor Banerjee. I'm a personal empowerment coach, speaker, author, and my work over the last decade or so has been to help people transform their lives from the inside out. But before I began doing any of this, I was a compulsive people pleaser. So trust me when I say that I know exactly what you're going through. And it's what I'm going to be talking about today. People pleasing. This is one of the most common, most misunderstood, and soul-draining behavioral patterns that we see today. Today, we're going to be covering what most people pleasing actually is, why do we do it, identifying your people pleasing style, and most importantly, how you can overcome this behavioral pattern. That said, let's get straight into it. People pleasing is the chronic tendency to prioritize others' needs, emotions, and expectations at the expense of your own well-being, often driven by a subconscious fear of disapproval, rejection, or not being worthy of love. In other words, it's living your life based on how others will see or perceive you rather than how you truly want to live. And sadly, you're not the only one who's doing it. A 2023 study by Psychology Today found that 68% of adults admitted to regularly agreeing to things that they don't want to do simply to avoid conflict or disappointing someone. And this behavior comes at a very heavy price. According to the Mental Health Foundation in the UK, over 60% of people pleasers report chronic stress, anxiety, or burnout symptoms that are directly related and linked to their inability to say no. A report from Harvard Business Review revealed that people pleasing is a top predictor of workplace dissatisfaction and is strongly correlated with poor boundaries, resentment, and self-sabotage. So, if you are constantly exhausted, overextended, or quietly resentful, I want to start off by saying you are not alone, you're not broken, you're not weak, and most importantly, you don't need to live like this anymore. So, as one of my favorite human beings, Simon Sinek, always says, let's start with why. So, why do we people please? To understand this, we have to go way back to when you were just a kid. According to Dr. Gabor Mate, the world's most renowned trauma expert and physician, people pleasing isn't a personality trait. It's not something that you just are. It's a survival strategy. As a child, acceptance, love, safety was conditional, and that being you was not enough. Maybe it sounded like this: if you do bad at school, then you are a disappointment. Boys don't cry. Don't be so dramatic. Why can't you be more like her? I will love you when you are well behaved. Or if you're from the South Asian community like me, then it's the classic "Log kya kahenge?" What will people say? You see, these weren't just words or actions towards the little you. They were emotional contracts. And you signed them as a child, who was too little to fight back or to flee. But I want you to understand something important at this point. You signed these contracts not because you were weak, but because you didn't have a choice. The little child self who only wanted to feel accepted, loved, and safe figured how to adapt in this conditional environment. So you picked up certain behaviors, your brain formed certain patterns, and you developed an acceptable identity. You became the peacemaker, or the fixer, or the golden child, or the overachiever. You became the quiet one, the one who knew exactly how to make everyone else happy except yourself. You see, people pleasing isn't a weakness, it's actually an intelligence. It's a child's way of navigating a world where they don't feel unconditionally accepted. But then you grow up and you began to adult. Relationships, career, personal goals, and slowly you began to feel stuck. What once kept you connected, loved, or safe is now quietly sabotaging your life. Why? Because when you constantly abandon yourself to keep others close or content, you're not in a relationship or a career. You are in a performance. And understand this, my friend, no matter how hard you try, a people pleaser will never feel truly loved. Because deep down, you know that the person they are loving isn't really you. And what's worse, you can't stop it because you don't have a true relationship with the person who matters the most in this whole picture. You! Does this resonate with you? If so, please drop a like or a comment. It'll help me know that I'm on the right track with this content. Now, some of you may be wondering, what type of a people pleaser am I? Yes, there are types. In fact, I've broken it down using a framework that I use with my clients. It's called ALTERS, which stands for self-acceptance, love, trust, expression, respect, and safety or safe space. When one or more of these are missing, we don't just feel bad. We become someone else entirely. We play roles, we develop personas just to get by. Here's what it looks like. So, number one, lack of self-acceptance. You become the chameleon. When you grow up feeling like who you are isn't acceptable, too much, too loud, too sensitive, too emotional, you adapt, you fit in to survive. You become whoever people want you to be. Often, you are the life of the party. You hide parts of yourself just to fit in. You don't have a strong point of view about anything, and you're easygoing and very agreeable, but very often you smile when you want to scream. You nod when you want to walk away. You fear that if they saw the real you, they would leave. So you adjust, you shrink, you perform, just like a chameleon, always blending, but never belonging. 2, lack of self-love. This is the perfectionist. When love was conditional based on achievements or obedience or appearance, you internalize that belief that you weren't enough. But maybe the performance could be enough. So you constantly prove your worth through achievements, acts of service, or always trying to be the best. You believe that you have to earn love. You can't just be, you have to do, be helpful, be more beautiful, be more useful, be more impressive. Otherwise, you are useless, right? So you rethink, you overanalyze, but it doesn't matter how much you analyze it, you're rarely happy with the outcome. And as a result, you're exhausted. But the show must go on, right? Because maybe this time they'll see how good you are and they'll love you back. 3, lack of self-trust. This is the over-apologizer. When trust in yourself is missing, trust in your voice, your boundaries, your goodness, you become the over-apologizer. You say sorry when you don't have to. You second-guess your choices. You tiptoe through conversations, terrified of causing discomfort, always trying to fix things, even when it's not your mess to clean up. You're always afraid of saying or doing something that will upset someone. You're constantly asking for permission to merely exist. And that makes you trust yourself even less. And the cycle continues. The over-apologizer has learned that being harmless is the safest way to exist. But in the process, they erase themselves. Their truth stays locked inside, buried under politeness and fear. Number 4, lack of empowered expression. This becomes the pushover. When your voice has been dismissed, punished, or ignored, especially as a child, you learn that speaking up comes at a cost. So you stop and you become the pushover. You struggle to say no. You feel guilty for having boundaries. You agree when you want to object. You comply when you want to challenge. And over time, your boundaries blur. They vanish altogether. You feel invisible in relationships, secretly fearing that if you ever did speak your truth, you'd be abandoned. You also resent yourself for allowing everyone to push you around like this. But standing up for yourself feels scary. There's a lot of anger and frustration within, but it can't come out because if it does, it could be explosive, and nobody wants someone who's like that, right? So instead, you suppress it, and that makes you super quiet. Number 5, lack of self-respect. The martyr. When you've never been taught that your needs matter just as much as everyone else's, you learn to equate love with sacrifice. You become this martyr who's constantly putting others first, carrying their burdens, saying yes when you mean no, and overextending until there's nothing left. You've learned to equate self-respect with selfishness and secretly hoping someone will finally notice all of the sacrifices and give you permission to rest. Deep down, a martyr is hoping that if they just keep giving enough love and appreciation, then finally it will be returned. But it rarely happens that way. Instead, they feel invisible, resentful, and burnt out. Number 6, lack of a safe space. This is the deflector. When you grow up without a safe space to express your pain, you learn to bury it deep down and cover it with smiles and sarcasm and constant busyness. You become the life of the party, the class clown, the problem solver, anything but vulnerable. Why? Because showing real emotions feels dangerous. It wasn't safe back then, and it doesn't feel safe now. So the deflector uses humor, distraction, overfunctioning to avoid emotional depth, not because they're shallow themselves, but because they're scared of what might come up if they sit in their pain, scared that no one will care. So they keep performing, and inside, they're exhausted. Did any of these personas resonate with you? You can relate to more than one, by the way, but here's the most important part. Think of every single one of those personas as a mask, because essentially that's what it is. It's a role that your nervous system has chosen because it didn't feel safe to be fully, unapologetically you. People-pleasing isn't just a habit, it's a system of survival built on self-abandonment. But here's the truth. You don't have to perform for love anymore. You don't need to be perfect or agreeable or quiet to be worthy. You just need to come back home to yourself to rebuild your alters, alters. Which brings us to, what do you do about it? Well, let's start with the basics, the ones that you hear all the time in these self-help videos. Learn to say no, practice self-care, set boundaries, journal, meditate, blah, blah, blah. Yes, these things help. But here's the truth. You can't set boundaries if you don't believe you deserve them. You won't say no if you still think that your worthiness comes from being liked. These things, these solutions don't stick because the real issue is actually quite deep. It's not about learning to say no, it's about relearning how to say yes to yourself. And that begins with alters. Healing your relationship with yourself through unconditional self-acceptance, radical self-love, practicing empowered expression, learning to respect yourself and creating a safe space within. This is the work. And it's not always sexy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Especially if you've spent decades playing those roles. Heck, I'm still doing these exercises, and it's a lifelong process of unlearning and relearning. But I, along with the people that I've worked with, are living proof that it's the most liberating thing you'll ever do in your life. Why am I so passionate about this? Well, it's because I've lived it. When I look back now, I feel like for years I've walked around like a beggar with my little bowl, my emotional bowl, asking the world, do you love me? Am I enough? Please don't leave me. Every decision, every job, every yes I said whenever I meant no was just another attempt to fill that little beggar bowl. But no matter how much I got, it just wasn't enough. Because I wasn't giving myself what I was begging others for. Until one day, I stopped. I came back home to myself. And I realized I have everything I was searching for right here. The acceptance, the love, the trust, the empowered expression, the respect, the safety. I was never going to find it out there. It was always here. And what I began to experience after that, the freedom, the peace, it's the greatest gift I could ever give myself and to the child in me who just wanted to feel safe and seen. So how can I not share this with everyone? How can I not share it with you? How can I not speak up for everyone stuck in that same cycle? Maybe someone like you. This isn't just a passion, it's a duty to offer the advice I wish someone gave me 20 years ago, to be the person I needed when I was still carrying around that bowl, not knowing already that I was already filled from within. So, my dear friend, if you've just realized you've been people-pleasing your whole life, or if this resonated with you, don't panic, don't beat yourself up about it, and definitely don't rush to fix it. Instead, imagine this. Imagine you've been limping your whole life and you've only just realized that your foot's broken. You don't start running marathons the next day. You don't change your shoes. You just rest. You heal. You show up for yourself and you show up with the care and compassion that you never got back then. You take it slow. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming you. In the next few videos, I'll be showing you exactly how to start living through the lens of unconditional alters and finally breaking that people-pleasing cycle for good. So please subscribe to this channel and feel free to share this video with anyone who needs this message. But then I want you to breathe and know that you are not broken. You are just beginning to heal.